Okay, I'm going to go ahead and bring this meeting to order. Can I have roll call, please?
Matt Conant,
Present.
Bruce Johnson,
Here.
Bill Conley,
Here.
Bo Shepherd, Sean Harris, Wade Kirchner,
Here.
Charlie Hoppin, Drew Stresser, Lac Vergog,
Yes.
and Mike Morris.
Here.
Thank you.
Thank you for that. I've asked Bruce if he'd like to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Okay, public comment. Members of the public will be allowed to address the Cedar Buttes Flood Control Agency's Board of Directors on items of interest to the public that are within the subject matter jurisdiction of the board. Any member of the audience who may wish to bring a matter before the board that has not been placed on the agenda may do so at this time. However, state law provides that no action may be taken on any item not appearing on the posted agenda. Any public comment? Okay. All right. Not this time. Not this. I just got that.
It was a blue wave.
Okay. Consent calendar. The consent calendar groups together those items which are considered non-controversial or for which prior policy direction has been given to staff that require only routine action by the board. The chair will advise the audience that the matters may be adopted in total by one motion. However, the board may, at its option or upon request of a member of the public, consider any matter separately.
Move to approve 1 to 3.
I've got a motion by Director Conant.
Second.
And a second by Director Morris. All in favor say aye.
Aye. Aye.
All opposed say nay. Ayes have it. Excuse me, I'm sorry. Oh, and one abstention. Thank you. Next item, a resolution of necessity hearing. Adopt resolutions of necessity to require certain property interests for the Cedar Buttes Flood Control, Cedar Basin Flood Risk Management Project as follows. Number 4, consider adopting resolution of necessity for acquisition of property interest from APN 51-580-020.
Mr. Chairman, so thank you. I wanted to introduce Scott McElhern. He's a partner at Downey Brand Law Firm, and he helps manage our real estate acquisition process. So Scott's going to provide the presentation on this item. Scott?
Thank you, Michael. As Michael said, my name is Scott McElhern. I'm a partner with Downey Brand, special counsel for the agency. And we're here to discuss a proposed resolution of necessity for the acquisition of property for the subject project. The procedures for this hearing is that the property owner receives notice of the hearing, which the property owners did. The staff provides a presentation, which is what I'm going to do. There's board question and answer, and there's comments from owners or members of the public, if any. And then the board votes on the proposed resolution, and 2/3 of a vote is required in order to adopt the resolution of necessity. The required findings for a resolution of necessity are the public interest and necessity require the project, and the project is planned or located in a manner that would be most compatible with the greatest public good and least private injury, and that the property interests are necessary for the project, and that an offer has been made pursuant to the government code statute. And we'll be going through those elements to demonstrate that those are found in this resolution. Finding 1, that the project is necessary because of levee deficiencies. And the West Bank levee of the Feather River was vulnerable to through seepage and under seepage, and it did not provide the required 100-year or 200-year flood protection. They had slope stability issues, there were encroachments, and there was insufficient right-of-way in order to sufficiently maintain and operate the levee system. And so the project is what was implemented and what has been implemented. The project goals is to achieve 200-year protection for the Yuba City sphere north and to achieve 100-year protection of the basin to the south. And the design features of the project are to mitigate under and through seepage, maintain the existing geometry, and reduce right-of-way. And so the primary design feature were cut-off walls to stabilize the levee system. Other design features were some seepage berms, and which the property we're talking about has a seepage berm. We'll go through that. Utility relocations, encroachment rules, and then the requirement to have an operation and maintenance area so that if there are flood flights or if the levee system needs to be improved for whatever reason, that there's adequate O&M corridors to do that. And the finding number 2 is that the project is planned to provide the greatest public good, least private injury. The project generally planned to acquire the levee footprint plus 30 feet on the land side, levee toe, and 20 feet on the water side. Again, the 20 feet and the 30 feet off the toe is for operation and maintenance corridors. Acquiring the levee and the maintenance corridors is necessary to meet the minimum standards of 200-year flood protection, provide adequate room for construction and maintenance, and to prohibit excavations and modifications that would endanger the integrity of the levee. So the property that's at issue today is off of Live Oak Boulevard in Yuba City, and it's a vacant property. The larger parcel is 2.19 acres. As I indicated, it's vacant land, and it's zoned M1 light commercial. And so the property that's seeking to be acquired is a very small piece. It's 0.1 acres. Previously, the agency had acquired 0.17 of permanent levee easement, and the reason we're coming back to the board on this is because a gap was between what we acquired and the seepage berm, and so we're acquiring just a small, like I said, 1.10 acres to complete the acquisition on this property, again for operation and maintenance purposes. And here's a aerial photograph of the area that shows the area in orange is the acquisition area. And so the proposed acquisition is necessary for the project because it's a permanent levee easement. Again, it meets the standards for the 200-year flood protection as required, set forth in urban design criteria. It provides adequate room for construction, maintenance, basically O&M, and again, it prohibits excavations and modifications of the levee. The last finding is that an offer has been made. The agency has made an offer. We hired Bender Rosenthal, our right-of-way agents. They made an offer of just compensation to the property owner, and we were unable to reach an agreement with the property owner to purchase the property. After several attempts that were made to get in touch, we sent the original offer. We followed up several times with phone calls. And then we sent them another notice of this hearing, and to date we have not heard from them. And so with the adoption of this resolution of necessity, it allows us to move forward and obtain ownership of the property, and that the property owners will be obviously served with whatever legal process is necessary in order to acquire the property. And that is, those are the elements that are required for the resolution of necessity. And now, next is question from the board and comments from the owner of the public, and then vote on the resolution.
Through the chair.
I asked the question when we went through this drill before.
Yes.
That was the Superfund site at one point where we're going to acquire it, I assume, through eminent domain.
Yes.
Are we going to be acquiring the contingent liability because of the contamination on that site, or are you comfortable we're buying a piece of property without the encumbrances of having been in the Superfund site?
Yeah. So the agency is acquiring an easement. So we're not acquiring fee title to the property. It's simply an easement for, like I said, operation and maintenance of the levee. So
Does that absolve us from liability then?
it would, yeah, you would not be a fee owner, and that's where the potential responsible parties would be for the underlying fee owner of the property. So it would be much like PG&E having an easement for electricity over the property. Any other questions?
Right, because if I remember rightly, that's actually right where the walking path is, going up and over the levee.
Correct, right in that area.
So that is like being used right now as a truck central parking lot. So we're gonna have a bunch of oil and everything right there. So that's why I'm asking this along with Charlie on this, is with the contamination and everything that's going on there.
Right, and so, and I think the response is the same, is that we're acquiring this in easement as opposed to fee ownership of the property. So the owner of the property is still going to be Takar and Sangha. So they are the owners. They purchased it from Robert Bain's Land Leveling, I believe is the name of the company that they purchased it from. And so the agency is simply acquiring an easement, not dissimilar to any type of public agency easement that you would have over property.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Through the chair. So it actually, this makes perfect sense, as opposed to acquiring something and having to deal with what Charlie just said. I mean, more or less, it actually makes sense for them to actually sell the property. But it's kind of good for us that they're not willing to sell it, so we get our easement through eminent domain, and we don't have to deal with what could possibly be in the soil.
That's right, and I mean, we are acquiring an easement, so we have made them an offer of the easement, not an offer to purchase the property outright. We've made an offer to acquire an easement.
Oh, the original offer was for an easement, it wasn't.
That's correct. That's correct.
We've talked about this one before. I think it's been like 6 months ago, last time, I believe. I move that we recommend, do staff recommended action on this and work on acquiring the easement and get it over with.
I second.
So we have a first and second. All in favor, say aye.
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 All aye. All those opposed, say nay. Ayes have it.
Was there any electronic public comment on that item? Any public comment?
Is there any comment? Public comment? No. Do we have anybody from the public?
That's not a capability that we have.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure because we didn't ask for public comment, that's all. No big deal. You do it different down here in the Wild West.
We're in more over here. Oh, my God.
All right, let's play nice. Number 5, adoption of Sbfca public communication and outreach policy.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, I'm going to have our legal counsel, Scott Shapiro, present this item.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair, members of the board. Many of us sat here not so long ago on October 24th for a special meeting where some property owners along 2nd Street had complained that our communication had let them down. And we took those messages seriously and wanted to bring back to you a policy that would allow us to reduce the chances of that happening again. And so if you look at item number 5 in the agenda, and in particular the second page of item number 5, you'll see a draft communication and outreach policy. We've designed that communication and outreach policy to address the concerns we specifically heard. We heard people say, in response to us saying we sent mail, they said we didn't receive the mail. So our first bullet is let's use certified unless there's a reason not to in other circumstances. We would say we sent an email and they would say we didn't get an email. And so the second bullet makes the point that we need to request confirmation we received that email. And if we have not gotten that confirmation, we will reach out by phone or in person in order to get that confirmation. We heard that people didn't understand what we said. And so you'll see in the third bullet, we make the point that we'll use 2 different staff members at different times to try to find 2 different styles of communicating information to make sure that isn't an issue in the future. We heard people say, well, it wasn't clear to us what it meant right? We're not experts. And so our fourth bullet point is let's take advantage of the lay leaders on the board who are also not engineers to look at material and make sure it is clear to the public and anyone else who will look at it. And you can go through each of the bullets. I think they're relatively self-explanatory. We can never guarantee 100% understanding by everybody, but we do think that we can adopt some basic changes here that will decreases the chance of that happening again. And so we present this to you for your consideration.
Through the chair, where on there does it say, I mean, maybe I missed it somewhere where you'll get a signature or something, you know? I know it says certified mail and so forth, but just something like, hey, you know, someone in the household just, you know, signed a piece of Center Flood Control Agency paperwork or whatever saying that, hey, you signed it, you got it. Not a certified piece of letter, but something.
Yeah, so the certified mail would be a signature for anything that goes through the mail. Obviously, none of the other ones are we asking for some sort of confirmation. We can, as a staff, try to work that into the second bullet where we're talking with people or meeting with them in person. I will tell you that sometimes people are reluctant to sign something because they're worried what they're signing is going to be giving away a right. But, you know, your comment is well taken, and as staff, we can try to incorporate that in where appropriate.
I guess I wouldn't say, you know, they're not signing a contract. They're just signing that they received this paperwork, that you received it, as opposed to, hey, my 16-year-old son signed on that certified letter or whatever, because they look like they were 18, you know. I was just throwing it out there. I don't want to get in this pissing match ever again with having, I don't know whoever's district that is with one of yours, and you know what I mean, but that it's, like I said, it is what it is.
He said she's.
You know what I mean? I just don't want to get in that ever again. Make sure that they know they signed something saying, hey, you received the packet. That's all we're having you sign for is that you received this packet. You're not accepting any responsibility with it, just accept that you received the packet. So therefore, I mean, when they're saying that, hey, you could go on my ring and see you never shut up, I believe you. I believe your staff went over there and tried like heck to do everything, and maybe they played the whole game of them not answering the phone, or I received it, I'm just going to, you know, who knows. But I believe you tried.
I think your point is well taken. I think this policy is going to go a long way to improving our communication and outreach with property owners. Nothing can be 100%, like Scott said, but we can try to ensure that all property owners have received, you know, whatever communications we've put out there. We're also going to conduct more individual meetings in the future, depending on the nature of the project, and follow this policy very closely. So I think that's going to really improve our situation in the future.
Through the chair, I think this is really good. It helps do one thing that probably, maybe we possibly could have done better on this, and that's document. And this would, I think, lead to that process. Thank you.
Any further comments from the board?
Yeah, me. And yeah, I think it's a great idea as well. And especially if we use, I'm in hopes this isn't a bad demonstration, but layman terms, so that not everybody understands legal words and everything. If we actually talk to them like in vocabulary words that people can understand, it might work a little bit, maybe work a little bit easier. I realize that these people were upset. You couldn't put out the fire once fire's put out. I mean, once a fire's in, but definitely talk normal. Thank you. Second.
So I have a first and I've got a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed say nay. Ayes have it. Just a side comment, thank you to staff for being proactive and doing that. Thank you very much. Number 6, agenda item number 6, presentation and file monthly financial report.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, our budget manager is out sick today. Turned out he came down with COVID, so he didn't want to expose everybody. He's isolating himself. So basically, I'm not going to go over his normal presentation. We did provide the financial package So if anybody has any questions, please email me and or Seth, and we'll get you whatever answers you need. Also, we're going to be starting, Seth and his team are going to start working with our auditor to begin our annual audit. So that is going to start up, and we'll probably take the audit back to the board early next year. So I just wanted to pass that on. So that's item 6.
Okay, thank you. Agenda item number 7, presentation and file program project update.
Okay, so this month's presentation is going to be a 2-parter. So I'm going to handle the first part, and Chris Fritz will handle the second. So I wanted to start out with our Feather River West Levee Project 1. So 2nd Street encroachments, we talked about that. I have some slides on the next, but let's pause there, and I'll cover 2nd Street on the next slide. But we're still working on our environmental and cultural resources mitigations. We've made a lot of advancements on the environmental side, which is the 2 Valley Elderberry mitigation sites, one up in near Gridley and one here at Star Bend. We've finally gotten the feedback we needed from CDFW and U.S. Fish and Wildlife. So we're incorporating their comments into the various documents. And we're going to wrap up that process very soon. So I'm very encouraged by our progress of late. Our O&M manual coordination, that whole process has been completed. The final manuals are sitting with the Central Valley Board. I touched base with staff yesterday, and they should be issuing, the manuals to the local maintaining agencies within a month or so. It's up at their senior management, and it just has to work through that process of sign off. Also, we're working on our right-of-way closeout. Today, we took an action, one of the last remaining easements that we needed to acquire. We're working closely with DWR on the transfer process. So all the 100+ properties that we've acquired, we'll be transferring those over to the state through the Sacramento-San Joaquin Drainage District. That's the entity that holds property for the state. So we'll be wrapping up that process very soon. We're getting all of our transfer documents. We're underway on those documents. We're also making a lot of progress getting reimbursed for all the acquisitions through the state also. We had a call with our DWR partners today on our grant closeout. And so we're looking at submitting most of our costs by the end of this month. There may be a few outstanding that roll into 2023, but we're very close on closing out our Prop 1E funding agreement with the state. On the Feather River West Levee Project 2, that's the Tudor Flood Risk Reduction Project. That's what Chris is going to present on. So next slide, please. So here's some pictures. So this is the 2nd Street project. Basically, it's the veg removal along the levee slope, the landside levee slope. We're installing new 7-foot tall, no-climb fencing at the toe of the levee. This is at the very southern portion of the project. This didn't require a lot of cleanup in these areas. Some of these property owners had fencing going up into the levee slope, which we had to remove and place new fencing at the toe. Next slide, please. This is working a little further north. You can see a lot of vegetation that remains on the landside properties, but the levee slope itself is very clean and clear of encroachments. And you can see the new fencing going up at the levee toe also. Next slide, please. This is the last one. This is the Roland property. This property had a retaining wall that was into the levee, and we were going to maintain that retaining wall and run it through the permit process. But in working with the property owner, it was difficult to figure out where to put the new fencing, and he didn't want a liability issue with having it at the bottom of the retaining wall or at the top, because if somebody were to climb over and fall and whatnot, he was concerned about liability. So we agreed to remove the retaining wall, which was a benefit to our program. And we reconstructed the levee toe. And as you can see, we're starting to install the posts for the new fence right at the levee toe there. So this was a win-win situation. The property owner was happy because we removed an old shed that was into the levee. We took that out along with the retaining wall, and we reimbursed him for a new shed, which you can kind of see in the background on the right. So the picture on the right, and then the new shed is kind of in the background. So that worked out very well, and that property owner was very pleased, and it made our project that much better from a encroachments compliance standpoint. Next slide, please. So just wrapping up on Second Street. So we're about a week and a half away from finishing up that project. The fencing is the last remaining bit of work, the fence installation. So we'll have that completed by probably the end of next week. So
Mike?
we're excited about that. Yes, sir.
What exactly is a no-climb fence?
It's the mesh is very tight. So you can't put your foot in there. Remember when you used to climb fences as
Right.
kids, you could stick your foot in there. These are too small. You can't do that.
Okay. Will the property owners also be able to put the slides in too, to maybe?
No, because the whole point is we need visibility.
Okay.
LD1 needs visibility into the property to look for boils during high water events. So
Okay.
no, we got to maintain that visibility access.
All right, thank you.
Yep. Okay, so for this slide, Sutter Bypass East levee repairs, I wanted to let the board know we are very, very close to getting our $4 million funding agreement through DWR. We just talked to them today, and it's any day now it's coming our way for execution, so we're excited about that. We issued a RFP for design services. Those proposals were due last Friday. We received two. One from HDR Engineering and one from Wood Rogers, who both work on our program. So individually they proposed. So we're reviewing those proposals now. We'll be conducting interviews next Tuesday. Staff will make a selection and take that to the board, that selection to the board for a contract award in December. On the OWA Robinson's Riffle project, we're soon to be receiving our $1.1 million DWR planning grant. That one's coming within several weeks now. We're excited about that. We're putting our team together, and we'll be taking contracts to this board in December for that project. We're also working with other funding agencies to fund that program. We're working with CDFW and National Fish and Wildlife Foundation and the Wildlife Conservation Board. So we're going after a lot of different grants. We're also soon to be submitting a grant through the FEMA BRIC program, and that's for construction, and that's a very large grant in the $40 million range. That grant is due on the 4th of December. And that would fund the construction of what will be planned out through the DWR planning grant. So if we're successful, the timing should work very well. And if we're not successful, it just tees us up to apply the next year where we would have our project even more well defined at that time through our planning grant. So we're excited about that project. On the sediment removal project, we have a Wildlife Conservation Board grant that will soon be submitted, and that's to build out the phase 2 of that sediment removal right at the confluence of the Feather and the Yuba rivers. So we're hoping to be successful. We were unsuccessful on a CDFW grant, but we submitted to WCB, and they encouraged us to submit a formal grant. So we're excited about that. So we'll see where that goes, and we'll keep the board apprised. On our regional flood management planning activities, we're still working through our phase 3 grant, which is administered by Trillia. We're advancing our Cherokee Canal coordination work with DWR to clear out that channel and make improvements out there. We're using that grant for OWA Robinson's Riffle for all the grants we apply for. We're able to fund a lot of our activities through that grant process. Also participation at the Orville Dam Citizens Advisory Commission, working with Chairman Connolly on a lot of activities up in that area. And we're also advancing Feather River West Levee Financing Authority build-out project. So a lot of work is being advanced there. On our Phase 4 grant, the $260,000, that is coming from DWR. And once again, we should be receiving that. They're all three of these grants that I just mentioned, they're all going to be arriving around the same time. So we're excited about that. We have more work that's rolling out, funded by our partners. So we'll be taking consultant contracts to this board in December for the regional planning effort. There'll be small contracts, but we're going to bring all of our consultants on board for advancing that work. Next slide, please. On the federal project, the Sutter Basin Flood Risk Management Project through the Army Corps, still working closely with the Corps on punch list closeout. The last remaining one is at the Feather Water District facilities. There are water valves that go through up and over the levee. There was leaking vaults that the contractor has made repairs to. We still have a few closeout items on that to make sure everything's buttoned up properly, so we're working on that. We're also working on our federal crediting efforts and doing negotiations, conducting negotiations with Sbfca for hopefully a sale of our credit that we can't utilize in our basin, but Sbfca would be able to utilize it in their basin. So those negotiations are ongoing. Chris and his team are pulling together all the FEMA remapping work that's needed for Sutter County. We've addressed independent panel of expert comments, and we'll be wrapping up those documents. We're still waiting on the Corps' as-built for the Corps' 5-mile project, the federal Sutter Basin project. We need those to package up with the FEMA package before we can send that in. So that's going to be probably early next year. We'll be able to finalize that and send it off to FEMA. And then lastly, our regional development impact fee, the proposed fee program. We're having a lot of successful outreach lately we conducted a presentation to the city of Biggs last month, the city council. We conducted city of Gridley this past Monday. That went over very well. We have a lot of good communications with staff up at Butte County, and that should be coming to the Butte County supervisors early next year, and also at Sutter County. And we have communications going with the Live Oak city manager and here at Yuba City. So a lot of good, positive outreach. I'm excited to see this program come together. It'll provide a very needed and necessary source of funding so that we can continue our strategic plan mission and continue on with levee certifications into the future to keep the community safe and out of the FEMA floodplain. So with that said, I'm going to turn it over to Chris Fritz. He's going to provide a presentation on our Tudor Flood Risk Reduction Project. It's that 1.6 mile project between the Highway 99 bridge and the Sutter Bypass. Go ahead, Chris.
Thank you, Michael. Mr. Chairman, members of the board. So the Tudor Flood Risk Reduction Project, this is our project that we have currently in design for the reach of levee downstream of Highway 99 to the Sutter Bypass confluence. So you can see it there highlighted in red. And I don't have too much for the presentation today, just a few brief slides to kind of give you all a sense of the improvements that we are looking at doing in that area. Talk to you a little bit about, just some of the staging and access areas, and give you an update, of course, on where we are in design and in the environmental and permitting process. So this just shows you a little bit of a kind of a zoomed in photo here of that section of levee. It is about 1.6 miles. We are looking solely at cutoff wall improvements. We're not looking at any proposed berms or anything that would be extending out from the landside toe. So everything we're looking at will be completed within the existing footprint of the existing levee. The cutoff wall improvements that we're currently looking at basically can be kind of broken up into two sections. The first section there, which would run from the confluence to Station 50, basically, running upstream to where that first bend is there in the figure. That section's going to be a shallow wall ranging in depth from 20 to 40 feet. And then the section upstream of that, basically that runs from Station 50 up to Highway 99, will be a little bit deeper of a wall, ranging from 40 to 65 feet there. We do not have any geometry deficiencies in this reach, so all of the work we're going to be looking at doing will be reconstructing the levee back to the original lines and grades. This gives you a little bit of a sense as to the footprint that we're anticipating during construction. So in that first section I talked about down towards the confluence, we do have an existing irrigation and drainage canal near the landside toe. It's not right at the landside toe. There is an access road there, but when we do the work to install the cutoff wall, the contractor will come in and degrade a third of that levee to basically build his working platform. We're gonna plan to place all of the spoils in that section on the water side of the levee, mainly to avoid any potential impacts to that canal. So we would be looking to avoid any potential sloughing or material kind of falling in there during construction. So we will be looking at placing those spoils on the water side for that reach. As we move upstream away from that irrigation and drainage canal, we'll be spoiling the material more in the typical fashion on both the water side and the land side. So that's the kind of the two figures you're looking at here. So this shows a zoomed in section of the area right at Highway 99. So in order to address any potential end around effects or under seepage coming basically around the newly installed wall, the design team is looking at extending that wall north at this location for, a real short segment, about 100 feet. And you can see here, this is actually something that the design team is still working on, but this was kind of what they shared with us here recently in a meeting we met with them. So we are still looking at options, but if we do go this route, you can see this would be an area where we would potentially need some additional right-of-way to conduct these improvements.
Chris?
Yep.
So with the second wall or the levee itself, there will not be any slurry put in to stop the water from coming under?
No, that 100-foot section would be a slurry wall.
Okay, all right. Sorry about that. Thank you.
No worries. Yeah, so this here just gives you a visual of kind of what that 1/3 degrade looks like. So during construction, they'll degrade the top third, as I mentioned, kind of spoil the material on the sides, come in, construct the cutoff wall, and then basically reconstruct the levee. So this shows some of the staging areas and access that the team has identified for carrying out this work. Now, when we did meet with them recently, You can see here they identified Sacramento Ave. We did bring up the fact that that road has been recently improved by the county. So they are actually looking right now at potential options for not utilizing Sacramento Ave. And we also did reiterate to them that we will need to keep the road on top of the east levee of the Sutter bypass. We'll need to maintain access on the top of that levee throughout construction. So the staging areas they're currently looking at are those two little spots there near one near the confluence and then one up near the intersection of Highway 99 and the levee. So this gives you a sense of some of the quantities that that basically will be part of the project. The cutoff wall improvements, you can see we're, up close to, 500,000 square feet there. The current cost that we're seeing right now for per square feet for cutoff walls is kind of hovering around $10 a square foot right now. So we don't have detailed cost estimates from the design team yet for the 65% plans, but you can see just the cutoff wall cost alone, that doesn't include the excavation or, the other components of work, but that's going to be, $5 million alone. And for the total cost of the project, we're anticipating it, to be between 10 and 15 million, but we'll know a little bit more once we do get the 65% detailed cost estimate from the design team. So where we're at now, we are coordinating both the design team and the environmental team. So the design team's preparing the project descriptions, which are going to go into our EIR that we're currently preparing for the project. And then they're also working on finalizing the 65% plans and specs, which we anticipate to be received by us for internal review here at the end of the month. And then we have actually recently reached out to the Flood Protection Board to initiate our pre-application meeting for the 408 process. So we'll be looking to submit that application to the Corps once we essentially receive and review and bless that 65% package. We'll initiate the 408, and then, over the course of the next couple years, we'll be continuing to work through both the environmental process, the 408 process, and all of the permitting that we'll need to do to get to our anticipated construction in 2025. And that concludes my presentation. With that, Michael, maybe I'll turn it back over to you.
Yeah, and that's the whole program project update. So, Mr. Chairman, we'll turn it back to you and see if there's questions from the board.
Yeah, and it makes it even more challenging, like for the project we have right now, where you do need to have some activities where you need to spoil, kind of on the water side. That's one thing we're looking at right now is the associated potential impacts with that activity. So not only, like you said, do you get the impacts with potential obstructions to flow, but it can also cause other impacts to future projects also that need to be done in the nearby area. So.
Any other questions or comments from the board? Thank you again for that presentation.
Mr. Chairman, I have one last announcement. Today is Tara Yaney's birthday, and she was good enough to join us on her birthday, so thank you, Tara, for clerking our board meeting today. 21 today.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday.
And thank you. And with that, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
So, second.
All right, first and second, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Ayes have it.